All right. Hey, kiddos. How we doing today? Good morning, good morning. I'll be right with you. Yeah, we're going to do a little speculating on the whole Trump arrest thing, but first, we're going to talk about them titties. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. And good morning. Good morning. Okay, how we doing this morning? I see. Hey, and Alex McDonald joins us at the very top of the show. It's good to see you, brother. I have not been catching Alex and Danny's show lately because I'm just wiped out at the end of the day lately. I've been hitting the rack around 9 o'clock and up between 2 and 4 for a hot damn minute. So, Cameron says Mr. Reagan put out a video that beat me to the punch about Trump's arrest being a giant setup. Yeah, I haven't got, I didn't even see that one yet, so I'll have to go look for that, Cameron. Good heads up there. Okay. The Trump's arrest story is going to be one of the primary headlines for the rest of the week. I suspect that it may not be the primary topic on Wednesday for Woke Wednesday, but I'm sure that when Cameron's back in studio, we'll definitely spend at least a little bit of time talking about that situation. And we've covered the whole Trump Stormy Daniels thing a few times on this show. But I get it. Okay, we've seen the woman and we've seen the Donald. The man's got a type. Nobody was surprised at the idea that he'd go there. Right? And I'll get into that a little more in a minute. I want to start with something a little bit funnier, a little bit lighter. And I'm looking forward to Crowder being back in the video business. I know they've basically been working behind the scenes, producing a lot of shorts and stuff that are shortly going to be on Rumble. But we've got this article from Louder with Crowder that just made me chuckle. And so I want to cover it. Alex says, okay, yes. Alex says they covered it on Saturday. It's all optics. They don't care about a conviction. That's absolutely correct. What they care about, they would love to get a conviction if that would keep Donald Trump from running. But it would. This is not the conviction that would keep him from running. I'll get back to that in a minute. I want to do this because it's fun. Hooters. We're going to talk about Hooters for a minute. Hooters enlists Elon Musk to fight fake news and inform Twitter users millennials do, in fact, still love boobs. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. The first thing I ever knew is that I like boobs. Yes. Well, it looks like there's this story. And I'm just going to read the story to you, basically. It's fantastic, from Brodigan. And this is a slightly older story. This is from December. I just saw it this morning. Not unlike Clay Travis before him, Elon Musk believes in two things: boobs and the First Amendment. Musk has been proving his commitment to the latter throughout 2022, and he's been enlisted by fine dining establishment Hooters to help spread the gospel on the former. Panic struck aficionados of chesticles this week when a satirical tweet flew a bit too close to reality. It was reported that Hooters was rebranding because millennials just aren't that into boobs. Okay. Amid all the woke, trans, LGBT garbage, the idea that millennial men just aren't that into boobs. Okay. I am just old enough to have evaded being a millennial on that edge of a technicality. Right? An early 80s baby. A very early 80s baby. So, millennials were many of my buddies in high school just a year or so behind me. And when I was in high school, you know, we had our part-time jobs. Some of us had full-time jobs. We were we had a little money in our pockets and no real responsibilities. You best to believe a weekly habit was to go to Hooters and we're in Conyers, Georgia. Funny story, in the mid to late 90s, the Hooters in Rockdale County, Georgia, Conyers, Georgia, was the highest rated Hooters in the country, even over the original in Florida, right? We had all the calendar girls, all the wet t-shirt contests, all the swimsuit competitions. And the article talks about people having their 21st birthday at Hooters. I had my 21st birthday party at Hooters, and my mother showed up with a cake, and the house was absolutely packed because it just happened that my 21st birthday coincided with with one of the big swimsuit competitions. So parking was a nightmare, of course, because there were 4 times as many people there as usual for a Saturday. And half the parking lot was taken up with this big tent where they were doing all the swimsuit, catwalks, wet t-shirt, all that stuff. And we had an absolute blast. It helped that we knew that my buddies and I knew all the girls at that particular Hooters personally, because we were either in college with them or we had gone to high school with them, and we played trivia every Wednesday night. In fact, one of the first times I ever drank illegal beer, I think I was 19, and my team won the best original team name. Our team name for the trivia that night was Jaw Splitting Girth, and so we won a pitcher of beer, and they just brought it to the table. Nobody bothered to ask for an ID because, yeah. So, the lack of DL makes me a bit. I'm gonna have to circle back to that, Cameron. Before I get distracted. So, this idea here, the Daily Loud, Hooters is shutting down and rebranding after a new study shows that millennials aren't that into boobs. We're a few months past this tweet now, so obviously that's not what happened. Looks like that's not gonna happen. But millennials causing a branding change because they don't like fun bags sounded truthy enough. You can imagine a mask-wearing millennial couple leading the charge against the delightfully tacky yet unrefined eatery as they drag their kids to a family-friendly sex show. And that's another one that just, yeah, Mom mentioned, yes, I said that, though. Yeah, Mom bought a bunch of wings, and she brought a cake to Hooters. It was freaking amazing. Anyway, Elon sees the tweet and responds, I can't tell if this is real or satire. And Hootie, the Hooters mascot, said, Elon, if you could let the world know that millennials do in fact love boobs, that would be really cool. And there's Elon. Whew! Phew! Did we just become best friends? Hell yes, we did. Crisis averted as Elon and anyone who celebrated their 21st birthday at the Hooters down the block from their college in the 90s will agree. The Hooters is solid, right? Now, I don't make it to Hooters that often anymore. I just don't. So, but that's about all I wanted to cover on that. Alex says my issue with Hooters is the food. It's garbage. I used to really like their wings. I've become I've gotten into some better wings since then. So, and hey, I've got Mental States of America in the chat. Looks like we've got a troll, ladies and gentlemen. Arrest Trump, arrest the pest who so pointedly pissed in that public place, pleaded the peeved people practically palpitating. That's oh, okay. I see what you're doing there. Okay. I was about to dig into you a little bit, but I think we're in the same place here. So let's get to the Trump stuff. I've got an article that I want to take a quick look at. This one comes to us from The Hill. And it says, former President Trump's longtime personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, said on Sunday his former client will absolutely go through the formalities of being fingerprinted and photographed if he is arrested in connection to the Manhattan District Attorney's investigation into a hush money payment before the 2016 election. And he goes on, do I think that Donald Trump will be fingerprinted, swabbed, mugshotted? Absolutely, Cohen said in an interview with Alex Witt. Do I think he'll be handcuffed? No, and in fact, I don't want to see Trump handcuffed and paraded through because I respect the institution of the presidency. He makes a good point there. The optics of a president being arrested, especially for such an insignificant crime. Like, let's assume for a moment that Donald did the thing that he's accused of doing in this case. right? We've talked about the Stormy Daniels situation several times, and the first time we heard about the Stormy Daniels situation, what we heard was Stormy Daniels claimed to have had an affair with Trump. In no way did she ever make claims that the affair was non-consensual. She never complained that she didn't want it. Her total claim was, we slept together. And he asked me not to talk about it. Right? Now, the asked me not to talk about it went a little bit further and to argue that that he had her sign a non-disclosure agreement. I had no problem believing any of that. I really didn't, ever. It never occurred to me early on, and I still, like, now I don't care enough to have an opinion on the truth value of her claims. But when she made her claim was, I am breaking the non-disclosure agreement for which I was paid, and coming out and making these very specific claims. We've seen the Donald. We've seen his wives, right? And we've seen Stormy. The man's got a type, and she's it. Never doubted that he boned her. And I never cared. We knew who and what Donald Trump was when we voted for him. We knew that he had some skeletons in his closet, that he likes the ladies. And we said, okay, cool. And there's a big and important reason we did that. We have a history in this country of presidents who like the ladies. It's painfully clear that nobody cares, most especially the Democrats, about a president's personal proclivities, as long as they agree with their policies or politics. That has been made painfully clear. Case in point, some of y'all voted for Clinton. Some of y'all voted for Obama. Some of y'all voted for Biden. Now, in fairness, it's probably a safe assumption that nobody watching me right now while we're live falls into any of those categories. But the fact is, there are Americans who voted for those people. So, I mean, plain as day, nobody gives a shit what the president's personal life is like, as long as they agree with his policies and politics. That is most especially true for Democrats. Like, oh, you voted for Donald Trump? Don't you care that he cheated on his wife? Well, I mean, you voted for Joe Biden. Don't you care that he's an obvious pedophile? You don't. You don't. You don't care about the obvious abuse of Biden's family. You don't care what he did to his children. You don't care about his documented history of overt and serious corruption. You don't care. You're hoping that under Alinsky's rules for radicals, you can scare Republicans into trying to trying to follow their rules absolutely as closely as they can be followed in order to jettison Donald Trump based on some spurious allegations of marriage infidelity. Now, when I say spurious allegations, somebody mentioned in the chat a minute ago, never forget that Stormy recanted. Like I said, I actually never doubted that Donald Trump slept with Stormy Daniels. Never doubted that there was an NDA between them. I never cared Except that when you look at the facts, she broke, if there was an NDA, which we're not sure of, but if there was an NDA, she broke it. So she actually committed that misdemeanor, at least a misdemeanor, because when she broke the NDA after having already accepted the money, she has defrauded someone with whom she has a voluntary contract. And it's painfully clear. Like, assume for a moment that the most believable thing is true. Donald Trump slept with Stormy Daniels. She signed an NDA. And then she broke the NDA in order to hurt him in an election. So the question there becomes, who colluded with Stormy to break the NDA? And obviously, that's just going to come to, it was the Clintons. I mean, come on. You take the Clintons and we have, they did the Russia hoax. Like, the Clinton campaign and their lawyers created out of thin air the Russia hoax. Timber says, I've been saying Stormy needs to be investigated for extortion. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, in fact, that can go so far as, whether or not there ever was an NDA, that she went to the press the way she did, right? Did she ask for more hush money? Well, obviously she did. Like, that's part of the claim here. That was part of the claim made by the creepy porn lawyer before he went to jail. Not Michael Cohen, the other one. The other lawyer that went to jail in this. I can't remember his name now. But creepy porn lawyer is as good as any other name for that guy. So what's really going on here? This is, the walls are closing in. We've got him this time. Do you? Do you really? Avenatti. Thank you, Stryker. The other Michael lawyer, Avenatti. But yeah, the walls are closing in. Oh, we got him this time. Musk seems to be of the opinion that if Trump is elected tomorrow, or is arrested tomorrow, that is the end of the election. He wins. And I gotta say, I'm pretty much on board for that. I am. I honestly think that is correct. So here's where this is not a prediction on how the election's going to go. This is how I want to see it go. Here's our best case scenario going forward. Because of the absolute catastrophe that has been the Biden administration. Despite the pandemic, Joe Biden was handed oil independence, low unemployment, rising wages, low inflation. Donald Trump created so strong and prosperous an America that the pandemic's damage and fallout was not sufficient to prevent Donald Trump from handing over and nearly unprecedentedly prosperous and free America to Joe Biden. Biden gets in office, and the very first thing he does is switches off the energy industry. And that was the beginning of the downward spiral. And argue this one with me. Tell me I'm wrong. If Joe Biden had not switched off the oil, we would not have had 5 banks fail last week. Somebody please tell me I'm wrong. I would love to see the argument against that statement. If Joe Biden had not come into office and immediately not only switched off the United States energy industry, but then funneled that money into pipelines in Europe, Putin would not have been able to fund the invasion of Ukraine, right? Forget about the pretty obvious claim that is easily supported by Putin's previous statements that if Donald Trump were president, Putin would not have invaded Ukraine because he would be afraid that Trump would just drop a Moab on anywhere in Russia, really. You know, fuck it, let's Moab the Kremlin. Gah, get it. Dave Mathey said, so what Clinton did with Monica is water under the bridge? Yeah, they don't care. They never cared. See, so I'll wrap it up on this. You look at the history of the habits of Democrat presidents, right? And it's painfully clear that they do not care about the moral fiber of their presidents. In fact, the evidence would suggest that they prefer the lowest possible moral fiber. They prefer the most degenerate. Whether that's JFK and his affairs, or LBJ swinging his big Johnson around in the Oval Office to make a point about dominance, or Clinton and his dalliances and apparent rapes, Obama just being a straight commie, and now obviously Biden, who may be the worst offender of them all, because it's one thing to say JFK had sex with a lot of women that he maybe shouldn't have. It's a very different thing to say Joe Biden has clearly abused children with his genitalia. Which, I'm sorry, if one doubts the probability of Joe's dalliances and abuses, one is not paying attention. But, and this is straight from Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, the expectation is that moral people can be forced, to their detriment, to live up to their morals. We saw this when Romney ran against Obama. Now, don't get it twisted. Romney is trash. Absolute trash. We know that very clearly now. We could, even despite Obama's many and significant failures, it's almost reasonable to argue that we dodged a bullet by not ending up with Romney as president. Because frankly, that might have cost us the 4 years we did get of Donald Trump. But you go back to Romney's campaign, and on paper, and before we knew him for quite the rhino trader that he is, on paper, Romney was literally an altar boy. Squeaky clean, no moral scandals, no sex scandals, nothing. The best they could do is make these bizarre, long arguments that tangentially connected Romney to people dying of cancer because of cost-cutting measures within companies that he restructured through Bain Capital, right? They took a choir boy and they told you he was a murderer. And people believed it and voted based on that. Yeah, see, Stryker brings up the dog on his car roof. He was talking about that happening during a time when that was actually pretty common. Alex, really? We dodged a bullet with the guy that literally invented socialized medicine in America? Yeah, like I said, that's a tough call. Romney was trash. It's hard to say that Romney would have not been worse than Obama. And I could probably make a very serious argument that Romney would have been a worse result than Obama. It's especially just given that the advantage that an incumbent has, having maybe prevented Donald Trump from taking the White House when he did. Here's what I want to see. Trump wins in 2024. Not DeSantis. I do not want DeSantis in 2024. I want Trump in 2024. I want Trump to walk in without the constraints of a concern about his optics going forward in order to get reelected. Trump doesn't have to worry about the next campaign. He can take some big risks. He can slash some things that he would have otherwise not done because he'd be concerned about how it would affect his reelection chances going into 2028. He doesn't have that concern. He will be an unfettered force doing the same policy and the same domestic and foreign policy work that he did that gave us oil independence, peace in the Middle East, right? Low unemployment, all of that. And then he can hand off in 2028, obviously January or February 2029. But he can hand off to DeSantis for DeSantis to start on a consecutive 8 years, the same country minus the pandemic that was handed to Biden. And this serves several significant and valuable purposes. One, what a competent leader can do with the absolute gift that Biden was handed, that he shit on, can hopefully arrest and begin to reverse some of the significant damage that's been done by those horrific policies under the Biden administration. Maybe, hopefully, get the inflation back under control, get the oil independence, get the energy independence back in place, get the peace of the Middle East back on track, shut down World War III in Ukraine with Russia, right? Get all that done. And after what we saw out of the first Trump administration, I don't think it's reasonable to expect that we wouldn't see basically everything I just detailed out of a second Trump administration being handed over to DeSantis. And then here's the second thing that's huge. This is an unprecedented value that we can look at. In the history books, after DeSantis's presidency is over, so we're talking 20 years from now almost, we'll be able to look back and say, okay, we had a Trump administration that was massively successful, followed by a socialist from the Democrat Party. And make no mistake, all Democrat politicians to now are, if not openly and avowedly socialists, beholden to and controlled by socialists. So we'll be able to look back and compare apples to apples. Donald Trump handed a prosperous free country to a socialist, and the result was nightmarish. And then Donald Trump handed a prosperous and free America to a competent, conservative constitutionalist. And the result was, well, what we expect it to be will be extraordinary, unprecedented, even more unprecedented prosperity and liberty. And for this is why I want to see Trump in 24 and DeSantis in 28. Because after that, for all of time, we no longer have to say merely that socialism has failed every time it's been tried, but we can say, here are two sets of as close to identical socio-political and geopolitical circumstances as can be produced with two separated Trump administrations. And here is the data set of what your plan did and what our plan did. That will not persuade people who are already communists and socialists. They're not intelligent enough to be swayed. And when I say not intelligent enough, they may have started off with, even those of them may have started off with higher intelligence quotients. Their intelligence has been degraded. Like the Ronald said, it's not that they know so much. It's not that our Democratic friends are stupid. It's just they know so much that isn't so. So being able to look at that, compare and contrast apples to apples, this is the difference between socialism and capitalism. This is the difference between tyranny and liberty. It's, we're going to have to wait for it, but that's how we get there. All right, I'm going to have to button this up. Yeah, Alex is talking a little bit about the financial meltdown. The Credit Suisse got purchased yesterday. Yes, and that's scary. That it has occurred to me, Alex, that we may be in an unrecoverable meltdown. It really has. I have hope, but not much. So, y'all be safe. I love you, and we'll see you tomorrow.